Okay, we are ready for finally getting to assemble the final power suit. This is the largest part of the entire thing, which is why it has taken me so many months in order to get to this point, and I am so excited that we are here. The suit involved a lot of different steps, a lot of different techniques in order to get to final assembly, and I actually started building the pattern and pieces for the suit 5 months ago. 5 months, 5 months of work, and we are finally to the point where I am able to finish assembling it. The suit involved creating a bodysuit base. It involved adding leather pieces. It involved designing and finishing 3D printed parts. It involved programming lights and engineering how those lights were going to work together. And all of that has finally come to a conclusion with the final assembly. And I am so excited to share that process with you. With this suit done, I am only left with a few other pieces that are less involved with this costume. And I am on the decline side of this. Probably only a couple more months of work, and I will have a completed Mina from Kaiju 8 cosplay for competition come in September. The first part of making this suit was the bodysuit. I needed to create a special pattern for this because I had created the idea that I wanted to have lights running inside of the actual pattern of the suit. I have two different kinds of lights, and the lights I decided to run through the actual seams and patterning of the suit are what we call L wire or EL wire. It is essentially like a long skinny tube that lights up, and I used it like piping, but I needed to be able to pattern the shapes onto the power suit that I wanted the piping to run through. So the first thing I did was create kind of like a pattern block on the suit that were in the shapes that I wanted to have the lights run through. These are to mimic the shapes that I saw in some of the figures, as well as what I saw in Kaiju 8 himself. The suits in this show are actually made from kaiju, dead kaiju material. So I wanted the suit to actually mimic an actual kaiju. So by running these lights through it, I was mimicking some of the lines and designs I saw on Kaiju 8's body. This is not canon, but I thought it was something that added some really good visual interest to the suit, so it is what I added to it. But I did pipe this in here. So I took the L wire and I wrapped it in some power mesh, some black power mesh that would blend into the suit. And then I sewed it into the seams of these different pattern pieces that you see around the waist. Then I was able to work on to the next part of the power suit. I wanted to add, again, more texture and visual interest to this. One of the things that I am very interested in when it comes to cosplaying is not necessarily making things exactly how you see it in figurines and in character design. These are animated characters made to be easier to animate. They are simplified. They don't look exactly like what a person or clothing or item would look like in real life. I wanted to add some character to the suit, so I decided to do some pin-tucked panels to go down the pant of the suit. So these panels, I did kind of little cut-in pieces so that the pant of the suit then had these really interesting textural lines built into them so that they felt more in-depth and more real than just a plain black pant. I like adding these textural qualities so that we can have more visual interest, especially when something is like this, a solid black. By giving it a little bit texture and visual interest, it definitely adds more character to these costume pieces. Definitely one of the hardest parts of this whole process was putting the lights into the pattern pieces. It took a lot of time and a lot of careful effort. But once the lights were added to the power suit, I was then able to put on the pants and have pretty much a wearable garment. It was at this point where I didn't have a zipper and I didn't have sleeves that I needed to stop. The reason for that was because I needed to have the other portions of my suit ready for assembly. I needed the leather, I needed the 3D print pieces, and I needed my lights ready to go for the spine piece that I was planning. The spine pieces of the suit have LEDs on them to backlight them. And the reason why I have done that is because it creates a really cool pulse effect. I did program these LEDs in order to pulse kind of like a heartbeat, and create, again, further visual interest in this costume. And the way that I am accomplishing the backlighting is by creating a spacer on the spine pieces. So I have inside of the suit a back plate that the spine pieces are connected to, and they go through eyelets in the back of the suit. And then spacing everything out are different nuts on these little bolts that I have added onto the 3D print parts. These bolts are kind of spacing out the back of the suit fabric from the back of the spine pieces. By creating that gap and letting the LEDs run along the back of the spine pieces, they can backlight the spine and create a really cool glowing effect on the suit. Not only did we have to attach the lights, but we had to attach all of the leather pieces. I had to sew on the breastplate pieces, the elbow pieces, the knee pieces, and then create belt loops for my pouches, as well as attaching the belt pieces and other 3D print parts. And because there were different glue steps and drying steps and things like this, it took quite a bit of time in order to be able to do that. One interesting design feature that I did include inside of this is a kind of support structure in the back of this suit. I did not want the weight of all of my 3D print parts and wiring and things to stretch out the stretch material of the suit. So I did include this like blanket binding ribbon, which does not have any kind of stretch to it, inside the lining of this suit. All of my spine pieces are attached to this blanket binding ribbon so that they cannot stretch out the material. Then that way I am kind of preserving some of the shape of the suit from like long-term stretching and wear. I also engineered places for all of my different wiring to go. I have lined the top of the suit, leaving the lining open so that I can still access the wiring, but the wiring and the hardware components are not actually touching my personal, like my skin and my person. So by putting this lining in, I'm protecting myself and my electronics from any sweat or like human damage that can happen to them from skin contact, as well as kind of containing everything. But the lining does have to remain open on the bottom so that if I do have any technical issues, I can kind of reach into the lining and adjust things where necessary.
All right, we have made it. I mean, look at this. Everything about this suit has been completed. 5 months of work has come to fruition here. And I am super proud of it. So we have our leather pieces, the pouches, the armor pieces, elbows and knees, as well as these pouches. So all of our leather is done. All of my 3D print parts are attached. I have my lights. You can see them, they're on in here. And then the best part of the whole thing, but hold on, let me just without lights on. All right, so you can see better where the lights are here and in the back. I am so excited. I am so excited to have completed this big hurdle of the cosplay build. I need gloves. I need to build the giant cannon gun that Nina carries. I need to do a wig, and then I have a little surprise thing that I will be debuting at my con that I probably won't show until after the con is over. But this is a big, look at that. Anyway, it's a big step forward, and I'm super proud of my work, and I am so excited to get to move on to the next part of this cosplay.